Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Great to be with you with Matt Catrillo and in the corner office, Nick the Greek. Waiting for Jerardi in the final half hour to tell him what to do on Saturday at Pimlico. Phillies are still down 2-0, by the way, bottom of the eighth. And top of the ninth, the Orioles lead the Yankees 6-5, but the Yanks have the tying run on first. All right. And at Southern Hills, Rory up by 1 on Tom Hoagie, Will Salad-Torres. All of them are in the clubhouse. Time now for our play-by-play call of the day.
One-timer by Smith, blocked out in front by Trub, has been on a long time. They score! Ian Cole, the veteran defenseman, just threw it at the net, and it got by Shesterkin. Carolina wins game 1 in overtime, 2-1.
Yes, Sean McDonough with a call last night on ESPN. Look, the Rangers had the 1-0 lead, 6 minutes to go. But, boy, that ice in the third period in overtime was tilted, and Carolina, all that pressure. Sebastian Aho, 6 minutes ago, tied it on a rebound. If you watch the replay, his initial shot, his backhander was stopped, and it just got right back to him, and he flipped it over his pads, and he tied the game up. It cracks me up. I mean, it does make me laugh. They do the crowd shots after the goal, and they show three fans up there with Hartford Whalers jerseys on. Because the Carolina Hurricanes used to be the mighty whale. All right. Today's show is brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Online at sunburymotors.com. For Kia Hyundai, best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory, all with the Sunbury Motors guarantee, and a fabulous service department that makes it all pay off. And that is, you're talking about, and especially today, people are trying to keep their cars on the road, so routine maintenance critical. Obviously, the great job that they do with inspections, diagnostics, something difficult. Yeah. A lot going on there. The Yankees have the tying run on second with 1 out. A lot of drama going on. This is after, of course, the Yankees yesterday referred to Camden Yards as a travesty.
I think that's more of a paraphrase.
It says it's a travesty. Camden Yards, new look, leaves sluggers steaming, pitchers hopeful in Baltimore. There you go. There's 11 runs up today, and somebody's been scoring. All right, the Penguins lost in 7 to the Rangers, and we just played that highlight of the Rangers. Game 1 against Carolina. Josh Getzoff is the play-by-play voice of the Pens. Josh, always a pleasure. Welcome back.
Great to be with you, Steve. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, Josh, obviously, these are tough conversations the Penguins are going to have. They have a lot of tough decisions to make. It's amazing how they've all come at once, but maybe we've been spoiled for over a decade because they didn't have to make those decisions. So how do you look at now what may have been the last dance for this group?
Yeah, I think it's starting to really register with a lot of people that were close with the team and around the team on a daily basis. Because I can honestly say, Steve, that being around this team every day and, traveling with them again this year and just being on the inside, it wasn't something that was ever brought up. It wasn't something that was ever kind of acknowledged. And as a result, not that you didn't know that it was, a possibility, but you weren't really thinking to yourself, oh, man, this could be the last game, or this could be the last series, or this could be the last shift, or anything like that, until after it all ended, at least for me. And then it was kind of the flight back from New York. I was sitting there and kind of like, wow, I mean, this could be a pretty significant, and that's kind of underselling it, moment in Penguins history. As far as what the fallout could be from this. And as you mentioned, an organization and a core that's been together for so long looks like its days are numbered as far as everyone staying together on the whole going into next season.
And it was worth having the core together because they won multiple Stanley Cups. So, I mean, that's really what it does come down to. All right, when you look at the Rangers series, you're playing with the third-string goalie for the most part. You're without one of the top 5 players in the game for a game and a half. The NHL, of course, has been, like all other leagues, been trying to do a better job of dealing with blows to the head. Is the NHL doing well enough with that? I mean, because it's a little more difficult because you have a stick involved, and sometimes it flails in a different direction. But are they doing a good enough job with it?
I would like to see a little bit more, and this is, I think, what anyone would tell you when asked that question. I would like to see more consistency one way or the other. I don't think they're consistent at all with their calls. So in that sense, if you're trying to establish a line and trying to establish where people can go in hits and what the retribution will be from the league and all that kind of stuff, I don't think anyone really knows from one ruling to the next what to expect. I mean, obviously, we have the benefit of seeing these plays in super slow-mo, analyzing it frame by frame. I don't necessarily always fault the officials on the ice because I think a lot of people fail to realize that game moves really fast down there, and there are times that they're going to miss things. It's just human nature. But we've allowed this replay component, and we've allowed the ability to review and reflect and, come down with a ruling as a result of those things. And sometimes I think it leaves a lot to be desired, or in the case of this series, left everything to be desired from the sense of Trouba and, where a ruling could have possibly came down. Now, in the same breath as I'm saying that, that's not why the Penguins lost the series.
Right.
And anyone who looks at that and blames that, to me, wasn't watching the series. They're watching a moment. Because the Penguins 3 times had leads in those 3 clinching games, 2-0 at the Garden, 2-0 at home, 2-1 in Game 7, 3-2 in the third in Game 7, and they blew every single one. So if you're looking for a reason, it's their ability not to hold a lead and their ability not to close. It's not because Sidney Crosby got hit up high. Yeah,
and I think you knew the context of the question. It was just a big picture question on my part, more than anything else. I give Tristan Jarry, by the way, a lot of credit for coming back and playing Game 7 because I thought despite that long layoff and everything he's been through, I thought he played really well in Game 7.
I thought he was great. You've seen all the pictures on social media that have come out since the game ended of the ice pack on the foot and everything like that. And I think everyone kind of had an inclination, okay, maybe he's going to play in this game. I still was, kind of crossing my fingers up until the warm-up. You had an idea that it was going to be Tristan. If you followed kind of how things have gone, just in general with hockey, he was the first goalie off the ice at the morning skate, and he had been doing all this extra work. But Mike Sullivan, kind of unlike him, was pretty coy before that game. It was actually kind of funny. The pregame availability, he was asked if he would name a starting goaltender tonight, which he's done every single one of the 82 games this season and all the playoff games. And he said, no, I will not.
Right.
So he kind of left there to be a little bit of mystery as far as that was concerned. But when Tristan Jarry came out of the visitor's entrance at MSG, I think everyone was kind of like, all right, I mean, this is what you'd hope for. Your season's on the line, and the guy you want to be in goal is in goal. Because I think, a couple of beat writers that I am friendly with made a really good point after Game 6 that you knew what you were going to get from Louis Domingue in a Game 7. Mm-hmm. You kind of knew what you were feeling, but you didn't really know what Tristan Jarry was going to give you. And if that was going to give you a little bit of hope internally because of that, then I think that you roll with it. And I agree with you. I thought Tristan was really good. I thought he battled. I thought he made some really big saves. And, the way that the game ends is unfortunate, but overall, you're not faulting Tristan Jarry for that game, because he was a big reason why they were able to, be in it for parts of it. I thought the Penguins played very well in that game as a team, but Tristan was good too.
Sometimes being a general manager, there has to be that cold heart part that comes into play where you make decisions. And Josh, I've been recycling an old Bill Walsh quote, and Randy Cross was being interviewed by somebody, and he said, look, Walsh looked at him and he said, look, I think you have 5 more years left in the league, but I only want you for your 2 really good ones.
It's a great quote.
Okay. Chris Letang is coming off a season where I thought he was really good in all 3 phases. Even strength, power play, shorthanded, really good. But, Josh, do we have any idea at age 35 how many good years he has in him?
No, that's the problem. And I will say this about Chris Letang. I agree with you. I thought he was unbelievable this season. He limited his own, internal mistakes that he seems to, become a part of his game as far as the turnovers and the mental miscues. I thought they were really down this year, which, not coincidentally lined up with him having an unbelievable season and a career year from a points perspective. But I think, when it comes to Chris Letang, if there's anyone you were looking at out of the 3 that are the big name UFAs for the Penguins, and Malkin, Letang, and Rust, he's actually the guy that I think is the most important for the Penguins, not just because of how he played this year, but the way he takes care of his body and the way he trains. Yeah. He says he wants to play 5 more years. I could see it happening. Is he going to be playing 27 minutes a night 5 years from now? I hope not, for whatever team he's playing on. But could he still be, playing 23, 22, and be almost 40 years old? I could see it. He really does take care of himself, and he's played really well the last year plus, I think, under Todd Reardon again there in Pittsburgh. With him back on the Penguins staff, has helped him kind of rein it all back in. And, I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know if the guy is 5 years from now worth that kind of a long-term investment, right. But I can tell you if I'm looking at those 3 guys, he's the one to me that they have to figure out a way to keep. And not coincidentally, he's going to be the most expensive of the 3.
Right. Yeah. No, he will be. Oh, yeah. All right. 5 years ago, I could have given you a pretty good read on how the Fenway Group would handle things right now. All right. And Josh, I grew up as a Red Sox fan, so I've seen what they've done with the Red Sox.
Right.
And you've seen what they've done with Liverpool. And then they wouldn't re-sign Mookie Betts. They traded him. And I sat back and went, okay, now I can't predict what they're going to do. So a lot of this is going to fall to Ron Hextall. Is he, in your time knowing him, is he one of those guys that, where the heck with sentimentality, this is what I think we got to do, and I'm just going to do it? Is he one of those guys?
Ron is a little bit of a tough guy to get a read on. He just keeps, the thing we heard about him, Steve, when he was hired is that he keeps a lot of stuff close to the vest and he doesn't expand a whole lot. I've been able to do our GM show with him here in Pittsburgh, so I feel like I've gotten to know him on a little bit more of a personal level. But as far as that kind of thought process, he still keeps that kind of glued to himself and doesn't really reveal, a whole lot as far as his plans are concerned. Now, I think that when Ron Hextall was hired, and granted it was hired by a different ownership group, I think that the message delivered to him was, we know that, as soon as these big 3 of Crosby, Malkin, and Letang, as soon as their contracts run out, as soon as they kind of get towards the next 2-3 years from now, that we might be in some, tough years as far as our organization and finding a winning culture again. So we need to maximize what we have right now. I think Ron Hextall still looks at it as, okay, Sidney Crosby just had another amazing year, one of his more consistent years. Yep. You probably are not going to bring back all of those guys, but you got some money to work with. they'll have just north of $29 million in cap space. Now, that's, something that you hear and sounds like a lot, but then you realize you have like 7 UFAs and a backup goalie you need to sign and all those things, and it could be eaten up pretty quickly. But there are some names out there this summer that I'm sure will interest the Penguins if they do want to, keep that quote-unquote window open and maximize what they have around Sidney Crosby. So I think Ron Hextall will be active. I think Fenway will give him a green light to make some moves and try to best this team as get this team better, I should say, as best he can. And one thing I will say about Ron Hextall is that the sample size is still relatively small here in Pittsburgh, but every guy he brought in this offseason was a factor.
I agree.
From Brock McGinn to Dan Heinen to Brian Boyle, brought back Evan Rodriguez.
Yep.
All those guys had good years. So if you're looking for what has he done, I think he's done some pretty good work, and it'll be interesting to see how he handles this offseason because it's really the first one that he's had with some cap space and with the authority to make the decisions.
Good points, because I think he has a good eye for talent. I really do.
Yeah, no question.
And not only just a good eye for talent, but you also have to have a good eye for how it mixes. Right? It's not just the talent. It's, do I think I can mix these guys? And, and of course he's got Mike to do that. But all right, Josh, what a pleasure. Great to have you on. Let's not make you a stranger in the off season, okay?
Anytime, Steve. I always look forward to our chats. So thanks again for having me on, and enjoy your summer. And if you're going over to that Penn State baseball game today, say hi to Dan Hartlib for me. I used to cover him at Illinois. He's a
good.
Great guy, the manager of the Illini.
I will, as a matter of fact. That's great. I will do that. Thanks so much, Josh.
All right, take care. See you later.
All right, that's Josh Getzoff, the play-by-play voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have won Stanley Cups. Does that bother you?
Maybe.
There are a lot of things that bother you. The Yankees tied the game up, by the way.
Yes, they did. DJ LeMahieu with the tire.
This is great. Oh, boy. It's May 18th, 19th. This is great.
And they got 2 on, 2 out. Go ahead, run at second.
Boy, I'll tell you, if they could get one more run and if they could go out and they could beat Charleston, that'd be great. Oh, they're playing the Orioles? Same thing. Altoona, Orioles, what's the difference?
Now the bases are loaded. Gallo just walked.
This is great.
Bases loaded for standing.
Altoona's going deep into their bullpen now.
He just got to beat him on the schedule, that's all.
Look, I'm just glad something's making you happy. I mean, great wife, 2 awesome kids, but, you're miserable. I worry about you. I mean, little Luke's only, 2 years old? Almost 2.5? Right? And in order to make Daddy happy, he's trying to cut the lawn today? I mean, come on. I worry about you.
We got to get his kitty garden tools to actually work. Then I'd be golden, but they don't.
When I was a little kid, my dad would cut the lawn, and I had a little green wheelbarrow, and I would follow him like I was cutting the lawn too. So, yeah. Little Luke just trying to please Daddy, because all of Daddy's teams don't win. All right. It's kind of a problem, don't you think? You need to get balance. You need balance in your life. I mean, do you want to grow up and be a guy in the corner office aching to hear what the horse racing guy has to say? Because this is how we're paying for the next vacation.
S-U-I-T. That spells Suta.
I mean, really. Look at Mertzi. Mertzi's out there working for money.
Oh, yeah.
He works hard. Dedicated professional.
She's the glue to our success.
Meanwhile, sitting in the corner office. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes.
F-O-U-L-E-D, that spells Falda.
Hey, there was no bonus that came with that PAP thing. The Orioles got out of it. So the Curve will be at the plate in the bottom of the ninth looking to win it. How come nobody else plays Altoona?
I don't know.
Wow. This is the 17th game they've played with Baltimore so far. Well, that's one way to build a record. All right. We'll come back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. All right, Dick Jerardi in the final half hour. Talk about the Preakness, but more. I think we're going to have an entertaining conversation on Rich Strike, which when we had Dick on the show before the Derby, we didn't talk about. Why? He wasn't in the race when we talked. Meanwhile, Game 2 tonight, Miami at Boston. Marcus Smart and Al Horford both will play.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf. Online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory with great warranties, by the way. And a service department, and also pre-owned vehicles with the Sunbury Motors Guarantee, which is invaluable. Really gives you peace of mind when you buy, and also peace of mind having a great service department, which includes inspections, routine, diagnostics, whatever it may be. It's all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Marcus Smart will play tonight for the Celtics. So will Al Horford. Horford did not play Game 1, not because of an injury, but because of COVID protocol. Well, he's back because he got negative tests left and right, so he's back and he's able to play tonight. So that's the story with the Celtics and the Heat. Game 2 in Miami. Are you okay, Matt?
I'm good.
No, management has said I need to check on you every single time we come out.
That's what I've been told.
Like every time. Remember the suit told you to buy Bitcoin when it was 60,000? All right. That's why we need to check on you. All right. Okay. So let's get to the Preakness. There is no Derby winner in it. Joining us, I believe, please tell me you went to Woody's today. Dick Jerardi, sir, welcome.
I am. Woody's in Northeast Maryland for the crab cakes. I was there from 1:45 till about 1:30. And now I am on the Baltimore Beltway and closing on my hometown.
Yes, you are. And closing in on Pimlico eventually.
Yes, sir.
Where they've run this race since 1873. And there's no Kentucky Derby winner. First of all, let's get to the Derby. I texted you afterward and I said, what was that? And you texted back, impossible.
Yeah, it really was, Steve. You go to the track long enough to see things like that doesn't happen in another sport, right? The 40-point underdog does not win. It just doesn't happen. But in horse racing, occasionally there's a result that's just mystifying, and Rich Strike would qualify. I mean, the horse wasn't in a race until Friday morning when Lane Lucas scratched Ethereal Road, so he comes in off the also eligible list. And then he gets in the race, and he's 80-1, and he's 17th early and no factor. And then the race comes into the stretch, and there it is, the race we all expected, right? The two horses, bluegrass winner is charging as the Louisiana Derby winner, epicenter in Saban, and everybody's excited. The announcers are excited. And then out of the blue, and I was actually watching the turf course in the infield. It's the first time I'd ever done that at Churchill Downs.
Yeah.
I see this horse streak by me inside the 16th pole, and I look at the number, and it says 21. and I'm thinking, am I supposed to say blackjack, like on a basketball broadcast?
That's right.
And then it registered for us. I said, wait a second, that's Rich Strike. He's got to be $1 million to 1.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what? And, of course, I mean, if you heard Larry Comas make the call for ABC, he didn't see the horse until the end because he came through on the inside and because he wasn't expecting to see the horse.
Right.
And to his everlasting credit, he did pick him up and called him the winner and had a great call. Like, that's unbelievable. And it was. Because Steve, he won one race for reasons nobody's yet made clear to me. They immediately after he won that race, and they claimed him for $30,000, they started to have a plan to get to the Derby. I'm going, I thought you should have had a plan to get to the next week.
Yeah.
The Derby. I mean, there was, what? And so they start running him in these prep races. They ran him the day after Christmas at the fairgrounds in Louisiana against Epicenter.
Right.
And he got beat 14 lengths, which is the equivalent of 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is the equivalent of forever.
That's a rout.
Right, it's a blowout. I mean, he was distant, and I watched the replay, and he was losing ground the last 200 yards.
Yeah.
Then he ran at Turfway Park, which is right next to the Cincinnati Airport, northern Kentucky.
Yep.
3 times in what I call the backwoods prep races.
Yeah.
And he's on a synthetic track, and he runs like a 4th and a 3rd, and he barely gets 3rd in the final prep race called the Jeff Ruby Stakes, spelled Steaks, for the people that are aware of Jeff Ruby, the steak joint all over Cincinnati, Louisville, Lexington area. It's not the Stakes, like a normal steak. Anyway, he runs 3rd. He barely runs 3rd. If he doesn't get 3rd, he doesn't even make the Derby on points. He was 24th on the list when the week started. Then some horses that people said, we're not going, we're out. He moved up to 21st, and 5 minutes before scratch time, they call the trainer, go, you're out. And then Wayne Lucas calls it a scratch. They call the trainer back, go, you're in. And I'm going, why are you in, but why do you want to be in? You got to put up thousands of dollars to start, to enter and start. Why? What are you doing? and then the horse wins. What? With Sonny Leon and Eric Reed and Rick Dawson, 3 people. I think Sonny Leon was actually at Parks for 2 years, Steve, and I still didn't know who he was.
Well, he got suspended. He got suspended for 4 days last week.
Oh yeah, he was riding at Belterra Park, which is the old River Downs in Ohio.
Yep.
Right on the Cincinnati River.
Yep.
And I wrote my story. I said Belterra Park is 108 miles from Churchill Downs. Might as well be $1 million. I mean, it's Steve. I'm being kind when I say it's AA baseball. It could be more like the Spikes.
Right.
I mean, come on. It's absurd. And you know what? He gave the horse a brilliant ride, and the horse came flying at the finish, and he won. I got no explanation. Epicenter ran exactly like I thought he would.
Yeah.
If I could go back and bet again, I'd bet again. But I can't account for that. I mean, Joe Rosario looked over to his left at the end and goes, what is that? He thought he had the race won, right? He held off Saban. Saban was never going to go by him.
Right.
And what? Rich Strike?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Well, that's,
and
that's because somebody said to me, when you talked to Dick, the two of you never brought him up. And I said, because I had him on Thursday, he wasn't in the field.
Exactly.
And even if he was, we wouldn't have talked about him.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't have. I was on my way to the Oaks on Friday when the person I was riding with says, hey, Lucas scratched at the Hero Road. Rich Strike's in the race. I said, who's Rich Strike? I mean, Steve, I'd never looked past the 20 because I didn't think there was going to be a scratch.
Right.
So I said, hand me the form. I get the form. I look at Rich Strike. Well, I'm driving for 5 seconds. I go, no.
Right.
He's like, no. He was like the team from. He was like the fourth place team from the America East.
Yeah.
That won their tournament because all the other teams didn't show up, and now he's in the NCAA against Duke. And you go, I don't think so.
And he wins again. And advances. And then they talk about, we had a plan. Our plan was to see, after the Derby, we'd probably run the Belmont. Right. You weren't even in the Derby until Friday afternoon. When did this plan come up?
Oh, yeah. Their plan was to run in the Peter Pan Stakes, which was last weekend at Belmont, because they didn't think they were getting into Derby.
Right.
Then when they got in the Derby, their plan was, all right, we'll run in the Derby and then run in the Belmont. Well, they never thought about winning the Derby. Right? Because right after the race, they go, well, you're going to the Preakness, right? You go, of course we're going to the Preakness. They didn't even know what the Preakness was. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know where it was. They realized after a couple of days that, oh, my God, we committed to running in the Preakness. We can't run in the Preakness. This horse has no chance. So they said, hey, he needs more time, and that's fine. It's fine. It's good for the horse, bad for the sport.
Right.
You'd like to see a Derby winner in the Preakness, obviously, and I'm sure NBC would have liked to see it. It's a great human interest story.
Sure.
But how did this happen? So now it goes off. People aren't talking about it anymore because there's no Derby winner. But, yeah, the reason they didn't think about the Preakness was they never thought about winning the Derby. Why would they?
Right, of course. Like, there's another race?
Yeah, right. And my guess is, and look, I think they're smart. I don't think they would have any chance in the Preakness.
Right.
Again. But I think that they're doing right by the horse. It's, not, as I said, not good for the sport. And the circumstances of the race, you're not going to get that pace like you did in Kentucky.
Right.
Smaller field, and the chances of that happening again are zero. So I think they thought about it correctly. My guess also, Steve, they didn't say this. My guess is, given how hard that horse ran, certainly, I mean, I would say conservatively, it was 10 lengths better than he'd ever run in his life. He probably had to be exhausted, and my guess is when they got him back on the track, he just didn't look the same, and maybe he wasn't eating right. And they didn't say any of that, but I suspect that also went into the decision not to run.
So you got 9 horses in this field, and by the way, D. Wayne does have one. The Secret Oath is in the field.
Yep.
At the age of 86, he's got one in there, and of course the favorite is the horse that was you and I both thought was going to win the Derby, Epicenter. So how do you want to play this one out?
So Epicenter did win the Derby. I'm just not considering that Rich Strike was in the race. Right? I mean, it was like he won it until he didn't win it. Steve, about 15 minutes after the race, I walk up the tunnel where the horses come for the paddock to the track, and I see poor Steve Asmus in there, and I go, Steve, I said, I don't know what to even tell you, man. Steve has won almost 10,000 races.
And never the Derby.
He's now 0 for 24 in the Derby, and he did everything right with Epicenter, and he loses to an 80-1 shot.
Right.
He just shook his head and said, I got no answer for you. So Epicenter ran great. He ran exactly like I thought he would. Actually, in fact, Steve, he ran better than I thought he would.
Right.
There were certain circumstances that came up in that race I wasn't sure he was prepared for, but he did it all right. He held off what looked like the big threat the whole length of the stretch. And whenever you see a horse make a move to the lead and then another horse challenges like that and they fight back, that's the greatest sign you can see in a horse. I am pronouncing Epicenter as a stone-cold mortal lock on Saturday. The only way he can lose is if this horse Early Voting, who's a new horse in the race, gets loose on the lead and he doesn't catch it. That is a scenario. I just don't think it's I don't care if he gets loose in the lead. I think Epicenter's still running him down. I haven't felt this confident on a horse in a big race since California Chrome in the Derby in 2014. I just think the horse is going to win.
Right. What about other contenders? Because you're not just going to play a horse to win. You're gonna look at the field. So in the field, who do you want to put in the box?
So here's the play. The Secret Oath you mentioned, the filly, terrific. Won the Kentucky Oaks. Has been on an unbelievable roll. Great story. My man D. Wayne, the coach, wins the Kentucky Oaks 40 years after he wins his first Kentucky Oaks. He's 86. We're almost certain he's the oldest trainer in history to win a Grade 1 race. Puts her in against the boys. I got no problem. She fits. She could certainly get there. I'm going to try to beat her for second because I think that's going to be the shortest price. I'm also going to try to beat early voting for second because if I'm right about Epicenter, he's going to get early voting maybe early in the stretch, and maybe early voting gets tired at that point. I like Creative Minister, the 2. Each of his 3 races have been sensational, getting better and better and better. First time in a stake race. He ran on Derby Day, Steve, in one of the undercard races, actually the 4th race of the day.
Yeah.
And Kenny McPeak, his trainer, I know Kenny well. He's a 10% owner of this horse, and they didn't nominate him for the Triple Crown. It was a big mistake. It cost $600 to nominate a horse. And then you can nominate late for $6,000. They did neither. So they got to get in this race, they had to put up $150,000. They put up the money. Kenny's in for 10%, and they got to finish 3rd just to break even. That tells you how confident they are in this horse's ability. I like what they're doing. I think the horse has a chance at like 12, 15 to 1 to be second behind Epicenter. They would be happy with second money, and I would be very happy with the Exacta paying $27.40, and I might have it for more than $2.
That would be my guess as well, that you would have it for more than $2. This is also different. It's a 9-horse field versus 20, despite 21 winning. So what does that do to how a race plays out on this track? And all the BS about the tight turns, and we've talked about that a million times. It's just not as wide a track. It doesn't have to be with 9 horses. So how does this have to play out? Get to the lead in something like this? Or does a horse have a better chance of coming back in something like this?
I love Epicenter posts in this race, Steve, 8 of 9.
Yeah.
Gives Rosario options he didn't really have in the Derby. Remember, he was 3 of 20 there, and he kind of commit to get a position early in the race. So this time he won't have to commit. I see early voting showing speed. I see maybe 1 or 2 other horses possibly showing speed, but I don't see Epicenter more than, say, like 3rd coming out of the first turn instead of 8.
Right.
Maybe within a length or 2 of the lead. And then I just see him getting that great position, and I just don't see why he's not going to give a huge run again. And he's not going to have to come from as far back. The pace won't be as fast. So I think the fact that it's a shorter field and he's got that outside post where the jockey has options, he can, look to his left. Hey, look, if nobody wants to go, he'll go. He's fast enough to be in front. I don't think that's likely, but, yeah, I think the shorter field absolutely helps Epicenter for sure.
My friend, you are the best. Appreciate it. The conversation about Rich Strike's probably the best I've heard.
What? Who is that? Number 21, what are you doing?
That's right.
It's like, what? I'm telling you, Steve, I looked at him for 5 seconds. And then, of course, when I got home, I watched all the replays. What did I miss? I missed nothing.
Nothing.
The horse still has no chance.
My running joke was when they were doing the post parade, and he comes by, and at that point he was 79 to 1 in the post parade.
Yeah.
He ended up hitting. Right?
Yeah.
My comment was, I don't even think the owner bet on him.
No. He didn't. He actually did.
Really?
Hey man, he got $1.8 million. He's happy.
He didn't even bet on his own horse. Not even he thought he had a chance. He said, "Son of a gun."
Crazy, right? You can't make it up. Man.
Yeah, Dick. Thanks so much.
All right,
brother.
Bye.
Dick Jerardi, we're celebrating the big Oriole win today. It didn't go well for you. I mean, the last time you were talking, you were all hyperventilating over, Giancarlo Stanton being up, bases loaded, and he did nothing. It was a clutch moment, so it's like he hits all out of his home runs in the 4th inning. Like today, he hit one in the 1st, and he hit one in the 4th. See? But then, it came time, it was like winning time. When the playoffs come up. Nothing. Santander, he homered. Anthony Santander. It's a big problem for you. I mean,
I'll still take 3 out of 4.
You're playing the Bowie Bay Sox, the Aberdeen Ironbirds.
I know, but these things will come up.
No, you were all cocky and happy. Okay? You know, you were all cocky and happy.
Game here in 2022. He hits the first pitch to left, down the line. So long and good night. Anthony Santander sends the Yankees out of town with a 3-run home run down the line for a 9-6 win.
Well, see, one team could hit home runs there.
I love how they say sends the Yankees out of town. Your team stinks out loud. You lost 3 out of 4. Stop it.
Well, we said it had.
I mean,
give me a break.
One team seems to be able to hit home runs there. They don't seem to be complaining.
Send the Yankees out of town. I'll send your team should be sent out of town for how bad they stink. And your ballpark stinks too. That's okay. We'll just keep winning.
Well,
your team just can enjoy being a minor league team, and we'll be fine. That's
we can
okay.
talk about the dimensions are one thing. You can't say that ballpark stinks. That ballpark is gorgeous.
Yeah, no. I have been to
really
Camden
is.
Yards, yes.
It is really,
just the dimensions
really,
stink. That's what I meant to say.
The dimensions aren't right. All right.
By the way, both Jimbo and Nick Saban have been given public reprimands by Greg Sankey. Heather Dennis just tweeted that out.
What have I said 1,000 times about that?
Oh, it's stupid.
It's irrelevant. Who thinks it's
Exactly.
Really? Oh.
Guess what? You should have already acted.
Top of my hand hurts.
Yeah.
Here, you want to do something? Suspend them. They've been reprimanded. Ooh. It's like the Sioux telling us in the staff meeting, we got to do better. What's the difference? All right. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. All right. I hate you people. Going to be really hot the next few days. That means the guy in the corner office will be complaining here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know. Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Open 7 till 4, Monday through Friday. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.